An exotic insect enthusiast brings a rare, venomous spider into a multi-story apartment building. The spider escapes and begins to occupy a new space, using the building's residents as a food source for its future offspring. The film begins in a Middle Eastern country, where locals are traveling through the desert, disturbing the wildlife. Upon arriving at their destination, they unload their equipment, and one of them, while turning over stones, finds a burrow. He calls the others, and the group starts, using gas to force the inhabitants out. Agile spiders emerge from the burrow. One of the spiders jumps onto a person, but his two colleagues ignore his distress and continue capturing the fleeing arachnids. In the end, one of the trappers approaches the victim and ends his suffering with a precise machete strike. The story then shifts to Paris, where Caleb visits a jewelry shop asking to see some real items, as he's looking for a gift. The shopkeeper takes him to the back room and offers a unique pair of earrings. However, Caleb's attention is drawn to a magnificent specimen of a rare and extremely dangerous desert spider, which he also decides to purchase. He returns home to his old house, famous for its unique architectural style. It turns out there are lighting issues in a house. Detectors work poorly, and the light in the back room only turns on with a timer. Caleb and his friend Maudis run a business selling exclusive sneakers. One of their clients, Tumani, ordered a rare pair, but the box was damaged due to leaking water. Concerned about the company's reputation, Caleb decides not to hand over the shoes in the damaged packaging. He asks Maudis to find a new box by the next day. Afterward, Caleb heads home, where he lives with his sister Manon. She's currently renovating the bathroom. In Caleb's room there's a terrarium for his exotic insects, amphibians and reptiles, which he carefully takes care of. He turns on the heat lamps that his sister had switched off to create comfortable conditions for his pets. Caleb loves his animals very much and even talks to them at times. He takes out a new spider, which he decides to name Rian, and places it in a box, first laying down some tissues for comfort. Later, Caleb once again argues with Manon over the pets and her desire to sell the apartment where they grew up. That evening, Caleb heads to a party, where he meets Tumani, who asks when he will get his sneakers, as his current shoes are falling apart. Caleb congratulates the host of the party and gives her the recently purchased gift. After some brief socializing, he returns home. Checking the box with the new spider, he finds that it has already escaped through a small hole. Caleb quickly inspects all the possible hiding places where the spider could be, but only finds a cocoon in his butterfly collection. Placing the cocoon in a proper box, Caleb grabs the sneakers and goes to bed, deciding to search for the spider in the morning. The next day, he's awakened by the sound of a drill. Manon is continuing the renovation. In addition to her, there's a group gathered in the bathroom: her friend Leela and her boyfriend, Jordi, Caleb's former best friend, with whom he had a falling out. Maudis is also there, having brought a new box for the sneakers. After packing the shoes, Caleb heads to the underground parking garage, where Tumani is already waiting for him. He hands the shoes to the client, but their conversation is interrupted by a neighbor, Gillette, who dislikes Caleb and regularly accuses him of drug dealing. After throwing his old shoes in the trash, Tumani tries on his new pair in his apartment. As he attempts to put on one of the shoes, he is suddenly bitten by Caleb's escaped spider. Tumani quickly crushes it, but from the shoe emerge numerous tiny spiders, the offspring of the dead arachnid. They begin to aggressively attack the man, who tries to fend them off, while his dog indifferently eats the crushed spider. Upon returning home, Caleb notices that his guests are observing his terrarium with exotic creatures. Politely ushering them out, he checks the room, stuffing cloths under the door to prevent the spider from escaping again. He doesn't yet realize that the spider is already dead, killed by Tumani, who is now suffering from the bite, with blisters spreading across his body and his condition worsening due to venom intoxication. Meanwhile, Maudis and Jordi, after taking out the trash, notice a group of people gathered in the hallway. The crowd has formed around Tumani's apartment, from which the sound of his dog's frantic barking can be heard. When the neighbors enter, they discover a disturbing scene: Tumani's body covered in blisters. The police are called, but they cannot immediately determine the cause of death. The residents start to worry that it might be some sort of contagious virus, though there is no clear evidence to support that. The young people decide to take Tumani's now orphaned dog with them and head to Caleb's apartment to wait out the situation. At the same time, the building's cleaner notices a web in the storage room and sprays insecticide, forcing the spiders to crawl into the ventilation system. Through the vents, they make their way into the bathroom, where Leela is washing her hands. Noticing that the vent cover has fallen, she tries to put it back in place, but slips and falls. When she gets up, she sees the nearby towel begin to move strangely. As she lifts it, one of the spiders jumps at her in response. Frightened, Leela locks herself in the shower and calls for Jordi to help. In a panic, Jordi begins to poke under the cabinet with a mop, trying to force the spider out. After managing to do so, he throws a towel over it and stomps on it. However, when he lifts the towel, he sees that the spider has scattered into a multitude of tiny baby spiders. To make matters worse, another wave of spiders starts crawling out of the shower drain, forcing Leela and the others to quickly flee the bathroom to escape the invasion. The young people carefully seal all the cracks in the bathroom to prevent the spiders from escaping. The guests start to suspect that Caleb brought the spiders into the building. He initially denies it but soon admits that he did indeed buy one spider, a small one. Moreover, he reassures everyone that it was a desert spider that cannot survive in cooler climates. However, noticing the traces of a cocoon, Jordy questions what happened to it. Caleb shows him a box, and Jordy, after briefly glancing inside, quickly shuts it. It's full of spiders. Meanwhile, the cleaner spots a dead spider on the floor. Showing bravery, she grabs a ladder and lifts a ceiling tile to check if any spiders had nested there. Discovering a nest, she takes insecticide and starts spraying it with both hands. Confident that the area is treated, she looks inside again but unexpectedly falls victim to one of the surviving spiders. Jordy suggests calling the police immediately to warn them about the spider invasion. However, Caleb, against common sense and his sister's insistence, decides not to seek help from the authorities, considering it a cowardly move. Maudie proposes going door to door to warn the neighbors about the danger, but unfortunately not everyone is willing to listen and some don't even open their doors. As Maudie and Caleb descend to the lower floors, they notice that the stairways are already covered in webs. They knock on doors, but no one answers except for the last apartment at the end of the hallway, where the door is ajar. Upon entering, they see the birthday girl from yesterday, asleep in her chair in front of the TV. Caleb moves closer and at that moment, large spiders begin crawling out of her body. Jordy reads online that some species of spiders, when placed in a hostile environment, can grow 10 times larger than their mother. This means that with each new generation, the spiders are becoming bigger and more dangerous, posing an increasing threat to those around them. Later they come across a pool of blood in the kitchen and the source is the dog, from which an enormous spider has hatched. The young people meet in the corridor, still unaware that the entire building has been taken over by these arachnids, which are multiplying and growing at an alarming rate. Most of the residents have already become food for the spider offspring. At that moment, Sheila attacks them, hitting Caleb on the head with a baton. Sheila forces them into an apartment, intending to search it for contraband. He enters a room and finds a box wrapped in tape. Sheila begins cutting it open with a knife, hoping to find evidence, but instead of drugs he's met with an attack of venomous spiders. Taking advantage of the distraction, the group escapes the apartment and tries to get downstairs, but the main door is blocked. They decide to make their way to the underground parking garage instead. Opening the corridor door, they see that the walls, floor and ceiling are completely covered in webs filled with spiders. When the light turns on by the timer, Caleb notices that the spiders freeze in the light. They devise a new plan, keep the lights on at full power and make their way through the webs to the exit. Manon offers to stay by the switch to control the light and ensure her brother and friend's safety. She plans to join them once they've moved ahead. With no better option, everyone agrees. The girl turns on the light while the others, with their hoods up, carefully move forward, trying not to disturb the countless spiders now inhabiting the building. In just a few hours, the ordinary apartment complex has turned into a deadly trap, where dozens of tiny, ruthless eyes peer out from every corner. When they finally reach the exit, Manon sets the timer to full and tries to catch up with them, but she runs out of time. The girl is left in the darkness, surrounded by dangerous creatures. Using a lighter for illumination, she sees a spider, but doesn't dare to burn it. Instead, she bravely pushes forward. The group tries to open the door, but someone on the other side is holding it shut, ignoring their cries for help. Soon gas begins to seep through the gap, followed by gunshots. Returning to the basement, they realize not everyone made it out. Jordy, still in the corridor. Caleb, overcoming his fear, goes back for him and finds his friend still alive but wrapped in webs and covered in spiders. They lock themselves in a storage room, where Maudie proposes a new plan: climb 15 floors and get to the roof. The group heads into the corridor, keeping the spiders at bay with a burning torch. When it goes out, Maudie uses a hand-cranked flashlight and Caleb pulls out a bottle of fuel from his bag, lights it and throws it down the corridor. However, the plan fails. The spiders, fleeing the flames, start crawling toward them on the ceiling. They rush up the stairs, keeping the spiders away with the light from the flashlight. Maudie nearly dies as the girls struggle to remember the code to the attic lock, but they manage to shut the door just in time. On the roof, they take a short breather, but soon the police arrive. The officers order everyone to stand against the wall. A panicked Caleb tries to explain that the residents need saving, but defying the order leads to a fight. The confrontation ends with the police overpowering and subduing the group. Caleb regains consciousness in the underground parking lot after the fight, seeing police collecting the bodies of spiders poisoned by venom. The young people realize that it was the police who locked them out, preventing them from reaching the garage. Maudie, suffering from the spider bites, decides to act. Knowing he won't last much longer, he waits for the right moment, disables the generator and, in the darkness, rushes toward the door to break it open, taking down the officer guarding it. From the dark corridor, an army of spiders emerges, distracting the police. Caleb and the girl run away, hugging each other. Lying in the van awaiting the inevitable end, they watch as enormous spiders begin to crawl through the broken window. But suddenly, the spiders scatter in panic due to a bright light. Across from them, Lilu's car flashes its headlights. They race through the parking lot, crashing into parked cars, losing tires and knocking over motorcycles and police officers. But just before the gate, Manon slams on the brakes. A massive spider, posed in a combat stance, blocks their path. Caleb comes up with a plan. He steps out of the car and tells the girl to turn off the lights. Realizing that the humans pose no threat, the spider moves aside. Limping, Caleb opens the gate and they step out into the blindingly bright sunlight. In the next scene, the camera slowly moves along a makeshift memorial for the fallen residents. The building itself is carefully demolished with explosives, burying the spider empire beneath the ruins. Lilu and Manon watch from afar. In the final scene, Caleb is in the forest, burying a cardboard box with a photo of him and Jordy. Sitting on a fallen tree, he notices a small spider on his shoulder. He picks it up and releases it into the new, unfamiliar world, where it will have to fight for survival. And with that, the movie ends. Thank you for watching, and stay with us.